Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Marcus. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to talk to you. So let's get started with giving the audience some context on your background and what you're currently working on today.
Cool. I graduated from university in 2003. I was a trader at a now defunct investment bank called Lehman Brothers for 10 years. I traded credit default swaps. If you want to learn about it, you can watch this movie called The Big Short. I had that job. And then the first day I showed up in New York, two guys in my apartment were making a website, and it was 2003. So it's not like today, 20 years later, where everyone's starting their, AI startup or whatever. Like no one was doing that. But these guys were making they were making this like baby blue homepage, and it said Vimeo at the top of it. So like I watched that from day one, turn into this like wild kind of like reality show type life for these guys, and I like wanted to do the same thing. I want to be a tech entrepreneur. So there was a big financial crisis. I kind of hung around for a couple of years and then I was like, I don't really like doing this. I've made a lot of money. I'm going to just try to be what those guys were, which I thought looked so cool. So that started a very long and winding journey to becoming a tech entrepreneur with like zero transferable skills from my prior life. And, I ended up in the email space, and that started this like very long bootstrapped journey to where I am, kind of like one company after the other. I've kind of like started things from inside of the prior organization, all bootstrapped, above 25 million ARR now. I run super lean, super profitable businesses. And that is kind of the story, man.
Awesome. So what are the current businesses that you're working on today?
Yeah. So retention.com is like what my company is called. And there is an e-com product that is called, there is a B2B SaaS product that sells to e-commerce stores. So big Shopify stores and omnichannel retailers, Warby Parker, American Eagle, people like that. So we basically help those e-commerce stores solve an identity problem that they have on their website. It's getting harder to track people. It's basically getting harder to identify people over time on your website. So we have solutions that lengthen the amount of time that stores can identify people. We have solutions that identify people that they have not currently identified. And basically the workflow is it just triggers targeted email and SMS messages. It just expands the pool of these highly targeted messages that are already going out, which are like, right time, right message, right channel. That's like what e-commerce is all about, right offer. So that's called retention.com. And then we have a similar kind of like identity product. It's called RB2B. That's like aimed at the B2B world. Totally different tech, different go-to-market, different team. And the idea there is someone hits your site, they leave. We'll resolve it to a business profile, so like LinkedIn. And we have a freemium motion that sends it to a Slack channel. That's really, that went from 0 to 4 million ARR in 9 months last year. The Slack channel, we don't think is actually the right way to use it. We think the right way to use it is to run it through the CRM first. If it's not a named account in the CRM, ignore. If it is a named account, alert the rep who owns it, and then sort of trigger either some manual or automated workflows after that. So yeah, but basically it's, kind of like the same idea. Like it's the website visit is like an incredibly strong signal. It's the best intent signal that there is. So, our job is to continue to increase kind of like the ways in which we are able to get that signal to sales reps so that they can action that signal, and combine with other signals. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. I spend all my time on the B2B side because I do this LinkedIn stuff, and it's so much more powerful on the B2B side than it is on the e-com side because I'm a B2B guy, and that's who people want to hear from.
So we'll come back because I really want to dive into the value that you're bringing your customers through your businesses. But I want to go back for a bit and talk about the first company you started, which was Robley Email Marketing. And I'd like to talk about the outreach, basically your outreach strategy that you had at those companies, because I know that all this experience has built up to the companies that you currently run today. So I want to kind of paint that full picture, understand your experience through the years and how you arrived at where outreach is today and the value you're driving your customers through your current businesses. So
Yep.
back to Robley email marketing. How did that go?
So the outreach that we did was there was it was an email newsletter app. So like MailChimp is the industry leader that most people have heard of. We were tiny compared to them. MailChimp is just, it was such an amazing company with such an amazing free offer. And by the way, that's why I made RB2B freemium. Like I'm so obsessed with what MailChimp did. So anyway, MailChimp's the leader. Constant Contact was the pioneer. And this was like, a lot of people know what Built With is. It's a technology that allows you to basically like download lists of different companies, different domains that are using a given technology, right? Before that, before Datanize, no one was doing that. So we actually crawled the internet for Constant Contact sign-up forms. And they had a paid product. So if you had a sign-up form on your website, you were paying for Constant Contact. And we'd enrich the contact information, just create a call center and called like all of their 250,000 customers and made them, 50% more opens for half the price offer. That was it. And yeah, that was that business. It got to 3 million ARR pretty quickly and then got stuck there because it was kind of only competitive in that channel. Like it wasn't, MailChimp was so much better of an offer in every other channel besides that channel, which no one else was calling into. Yeah, and it was stuck for 3 years. So that was business number one. And then in trying to figure out how to grow that business, I arrived at business number two, which is currently called retention.com. It was called Get Emails when I started it. I knew that the biggest problem in email was like list growth, right? Like a combination of like people unsubscribing and you being able to like fill up the top faster than that was happening, right? Like, because of course everybody wants a bigger list, right? Like, why wouldn't you? So,
Yeah.
I had heard that it was possible to resolve an anonymous website visitor to an email address without them filling out a form. That seems magical. It seemed magical in 2019. Certainly, it still seems kind of magical. Like, how do you do that? Like, what the fuck? And then, we knew a lot about this area of study called deliverability, which is like the reason why you can't just like buy a list of consumer emails and blast them. Like B2B is a little bit different. Like, there's kind of ways to spam people, but like, it's a lot harder with consumer emails. So we developed this. It was a feature initially in Robley called Robley ID. Launched it. Thought it was what was going to grow Robley. People would sign up for Robley, use the ID tool, not use anything else, download the file and put it in Klaviyo and tell us it was awesome. So like, that's like a really good sign of product market fit, that people are willing to endure a horrible user experience and still say the product is great. So kind of realized it would be a bad product if we left it inside of the the email app, and it would be a really good product if we spun it out and connected it to everything. So that's what we did. That was 2019. And the outreach strategy for that was actually the first 6 months, it was Facebook ads. I ran this like really aggressive and inflammatory Facebook ad campaign. Like there's this really interesting dynamic with what we were doing where there's like a vocal minority of privacy people that just like hate this. Even though it's legal, they just hate it and they actually think it's illegal too. So like there's just so much opportunity for like a social media like kind of like shitstorm war or whatever. So I would make these really funny videos that would agitate this group of people who hated it. And then I'd like insult them from the brand account after they like wrote me a novel about why I was such a scumbag. And like they'd write another novel, and it's just, what does social media want? They want that. They want the, like they're going to show that to everybody. An ad that's like so, that breeds so much argument, right? So did that for 6 months. It was great. It kind of stopped working. It was the really problem was it was like bringing in the wrong type. It was creating unbelievable awareness, but like Facebook is not where generally your ideal customers for a SaaS are. Like they're very like wantrepreneur, type people. So churn on SaaS coming from Facebook is usually epically high. But the product was good and the word of mouth was super strong. So we were able to just like kind of do cold email and word of mouth with like a tiny team for the next few years. That was like the outreach strategy there. And then in the end of 2022, we focused on the top of the Shopify audience, built all the rest of the product suite for e-commerce, like in addition to just that one email workflow, changed the name to retention.com. And then we were like 10 or 12 million ARR. And then the strategy went from cold email to like very much like, you call it maybe like ABM, like very targeted, event-based, kind of like referral-based, like outreach strategy, like very small list of accounts, go and find them in the real world and get them in front of you. That was kind of what it turned into. And then I started posting on LinkedIn about the journey, realized that whenever I posted about a specific experience in my B2B life as a startup founder, the resonance with B2B people was epic with what I was willing to share about it. The dirty little secret is no one is willing to talk badly about their own business on LinkedIn for a lot of reasons. They're afraid of, primarily people in my situation have investors, like kind of almost nobody at 25 million ARR is bootstrapped. Your investors will not allow you to say bad things about your business publicly. They just won't. Your team fucking hates it. So like people don't realize that like, I have this belief that like, I want my team to understand what I don't like about what's going on, like if there's something, a lot of people don't agree with that. They're like, it's going to make sales harder. It's going to discourage the team, it's whatever. And I'm like, I want them to know that I think we fell out of product market fit. Right. Like I want them to know that like, I think our team is too big, like, I mean, so yeah, there's a lot of reasons why people can't do it. And that's why I keep doing it. And the content was so good that we decided to like after realizing how epic of a marketing vehicle this voice was on LinkedIn to B2B people, we decided to basically rebuild the e-commerce product for these B2B people. Launched it last March. That's called RB2B. Got it to 4 million ARR in 9 months last year, with 5 people, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty insane growth. So I want to tie everything you said together and just walk through the process one by one from how you started. So with your first business, you guys had a list that you had scraped, finding users who were using another company's software. The company was, can you say that company name again?
Constant Contact, yeah.
Constant Contact. And I believe you guys stagnated at 3 million ARR because that list just wasn't producing anymore and there was no other way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Your list dies eventually and then it's dead. And none of the other all of the other channels were being dominated by MailChimp and we couldn't compete in them. We couldn't buy a paid, how do you buy a paid ad against someone who's paying for ads for a free product? It's very difficult. With a brand that everyone has already heard of, right? Like it's very difficult. Anyway, go on.
And then your second business, you guys started off with I like that strategy where you guys were posting on Facebook and you're getting a ton of engagement because your content was inflammatory towards a certain group of people. And it
by
led
the
to
way,
a lot.
we're not the customers, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like you either really hated it and you were never going to buy it or you didn't care and thought it was hilarious,
Yeah, fair. And then you guys transitioned to email marketing for that business or outreach for that business to primarily drive customers, correct? For retention.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so what I want to understand is you guys transitioned from Facebook to outreach, and then you transitioned to LinkedIn afterwards, and that's your primary channel for
For
driving
the
new
B2B
customers
business, not
for the
not for
B2B.
the e-com business. It doesn't, LinkedIn doesn't drive e-com customers. So like e-com,
Uh-huh.
retention.com is the e-commerce business. It is like we're moving up market right now. We just closed our first enterprise deal. Our entire focus is mid-market and enterprise omnichannel retailers, and taking marketing leaders. Like we'll get like a booth at a Taylor Swift concert and get like the CMO from Foot Locker and like Target and like whatever into this booth to then start a sales cycle. That's
Gotcha.
that's what we have to do.
Interesting. So you guys aren't doing any outreach for that business right now. It's more
No,
so.
I mean it's such a tight our so like it's such a small in terms of numbers TAM that like you wouldn't set up like an automated campaign. You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
the spam cannon, which is like what I love to call this like instantly smart lead, clay shit. It's like that works incredibly well if the number of accounts, if your penetration is 0, right? And the number of
Mhm.
accounts that you have to go after is incredibly high. If the
Gotcha.
opposite is true, if your penetration in the market is very high, so people have either are currently using you or have used you in the past, and there's a very small number of accounts to go after, the spam cannon is useless. No one's going to like, the CMO of Foot Locker is not going to answer a shitty domain that says, oh, we'll like help you do whatever, right? Like they will answer someone who they know that we also know that says, by the way, do you want to go to Taylor Swift next week? Right. It's
Right.
a totally different game. So that's the paradigm that business is in. Our B2B is much closer to the other paradigm, and we did do a lot of cold email last year. I stopped it because like just I felt like we need to take a step back and figure out some kind of like onboarding and activation stuff and like really define the ideal customer profile for that business, which we had not done yet because it was like this freemium offer that we were just like letting anyone sign up for and use however they wanted. We will probably turn it on again
Okay.
because it's like that's exactly the opposite of where retention.com is now. It's like penetration is still quite low. Like the TAM is massive. And I am actually thinking about email these days. I think like the sender is actually the highest determinant of open rate. And in the B2B world, I'm quite well known. So like my cold email works better than someone who does not have a large personal brand with the people they're sending to. And our offer was like fire last year. Or, you know what I mean? So like if you have, I think like outreach works when if the sender is known, that's the best. There needs to be word of mouth happening also, right? And then the outreach can like remind people that they wanted to do what they'd been heard about, what they've been hearing about in their ecosystem. Does that make sense? It's like a poke that complements all of this other stuff. If your only strategy is to try the spam cannon and you're unknown and your offer sucks and no one is talking about your brand, it's not going to work. Like the only reason the cold email, which it wasn't the same as in 2019 or 2020 with get emails, like you didn't need to do the instantly thing yet because the spam filters were different. Like we were sending one-off manual emails off of our primary domain at that time. But the reason that it worked so well is because the product had exceptional word of mouth into the audience that we were emailing into. So people were hearing about it left and right, and then we'd send an email and they write back to it. You know what I mean? So like the goal is always that word of mouth. It's not really the outreach. Like that needs to be good, but what needs to be great is your product.
Yeah, because that's why I was thinking about when you were telling that story and leading it from your first businesses to now. Because when you think of outreach nowadays, there's Like, for example, you have all of these tools where you can send a ton of emails. You can use AI for enrichment. And there's lots of AI personalization going out there, which, depending on your familiarity with AI, you can easily spot. So, what I like to do in this podcast is I like to really dive in to the practical things that people are doing. And on the theme of outreach, what you're saying is you want to have word of mouth as something, one of your primary focuses. So this could be brand building um, through content online and kind of having people know about you out there, putting stuff out there so people maybe have come across your content before or seen your name. And then you can follow up with cold email sequences to these people. So it's less of a complete cold outreach and maybe a bit warmer depending if they've seen you before or not.
I mean, that's what you will see results from. And it's not just, this is my opinion. And like, I don't know, this guy Taylor Heron does our email. He's not getting other people anywhere close to the results he's getting us for all of these reasons, right? It's like known sender plus great offer plus I have heard about them 100 other ways before I got this email. And this just reminded me to reply, right? That's how you kind of, I think you need to think about outreach. Um, it, but I would also, I really want to emphasize like my content was great up until the launch of Get Emails, or excuse me, RB2B last year, right?
Yeah.
The tool we're talking about. That product was unbelievable at the time. There were no competitors. Nobody else was doing person level website visitor identity. All of the company level identity products were paid and this was free. So for $0, you could like fire it up and you start just seeing these Slack profiles. Start just seeing these LinkedIn profiles in Slack. And it was an amazing thing. So there was this viral content and this viral product working off of each other. And, you know, Taylor's just sitting there firing cold emails into that mess, right? So like, I think great marketing is nothing without a great product. Like maybe you can
Yeah.
get a pop through a few stunts, but what really gives great marketing the ability to sustain is a great product underneath it. And they work off each other. So like I really cracked this content game last year. Like it was just like I really figured out what LinkedIn wanted from me and was just able to give it to LinkedIn. And at the same time, my whole philosophy was just try to be like loud and like crazy on the product side, you know, lean into conflict, like all that shit. So yeah, it unfortunately, just like anything else in life, there is no simple equation.
Yeah.
And like, look, like I love this podcast called Founders Podcast by David Senra. And like I was listening to he goes over biographies of all of the great entrepreneurs who have ever lived. I was listening to one of Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan said this amazing thing. He's like, everyone is drawn to like the big endorsement deals I got and like all the publicity and shit like that. He's like, the only reason I had any of that is because I worked harder than anyone else from the time I was in middle school until literally today in my 70s. Right? So like how that relates to what we're talking about is like outreach works when your product is so good and you have this other sort of like marketing thing going on that like you have created a buzz in this world that you are outreaching into. Where 0 to 1 founders fuck up is they can't even articulate what they do clearly for whom. And they're trying to do cold email and run ads. Never going to work. Like until you start getting referrals inbound that you are not asking for, multiple per week, I don't even think it's worth doing cold email or outreach of any kind. It's just, you can do it manually, like super manually. Just try to get, you know, work on that one elevator pitch. Try to go to events, try to get in front of people, articulate what you do in a way that's compelling enough for them to actually use your technology and give you feedback. If you can't do that, there's no fucking way somebody's going to write back to a cold email, right? Like and then you just get in this customer discovery loop and product iteration loop until it's good enough to where you are getting inbound. And once you get inbound, you can start doing outreach and it will work.
Mhm.
That's the secret.
Yeah, I like that. It's really zoning in on what you can do and then having the outreach kind of complement it once you've already solved that problem.
So I want to say it in a different way. And
Okay.
I'm talking about product market fit, right? Like your ability, product market fit is like this thing where it's like your ability to articulate what you do to your target audience through some channel where they stop and they say, fuck yes, right? Like, and then the product actually delivers on what you're saying. That is what, if you're playing the startup game, that is what you're going for. If you don't get there, you're going to be stuck at single digit ARR, low single digits, maybe even six figures until you get there.
Mhm.
What I say about this all the time is with product market fit, which is like what I articulated, you can sit in for RBDB last year, it was push LinkedIn profiles into Slack. Identify your site visitors, push their LinkedIn profiles to Slack. It's 100% free. Like that statement to anybody in B2B, they were like, they just drop everything and sign up and just look at it. Right.
Yeah.
So like once you have product market fit, everything that you do will work. If you do not, nothing you do will work. It's not even worth having this conversation, right? But once you get there, dude, it's just all about like trying to find like the lowest hanging fruit. It's like you're out, what were we doing, right? Like we had such a hot thing in the summer of last year that like we were able to get cold email to crush. We were able to, the LinkedIn content kept doing even better because of the product, right? So like that channel was just like amazing. And there's this like visit my website on your LinkedIn profile was just driving shitloads of traffic. We were able to get a UGC motion going from the Clay agency world because like those agencies, when they posted about RB2B, it was something about like pulled juice from my LinkedIn presence and like the post did better than anything else they could write about. Right. So like we were getting like 200 brand mentions a week without us doing anything. Right. Like,
Mhm.
and it was all because of like this like explosion of heat, and then, I was running thought leadership ads. Those were working incredibly well, kind of all because of all the rest of the stuff. And then the free product itself is kind of like a channel. Like, anyway, so I'll put it back to you. That's like my rant on. We can dissect outreach all day long, but like what is actually important is that you are trying to do outreach for a product people actually want.
Yeah. And do you think part of the success for our B2B in for the product is the fact that a user can sign up and maybe they won't scrape all the emails that come into Slack, but they get some instant gratification from seeing results very quickly in their Slack channel? Was that deliberate to kind of hook people into the product?
Yeah, so like I believe that speed to wow is like the most important thing. Like what we did not do well last year was after that wow moment, like there was no action. You know what I mean? Like we were not correctly assisting people with implementation and education to allow them to instruct them on how to easily action the information that we were providing. We weren't telling them anything. We were just letting them use the product however they wanted to. And basically what we were selling last year was put a human being in front of this noisy ass Slack channel and have them figure out what to do. That was effectively what was being sold. It's amazing we got as far as we did. The reason I'm not doing any other outreach is because I believe the true value of this product is in doing what I just described, implementing workflows through people's CRM that will alert reps when their target accounts are on the website and suggest what they should do based upon context of page views and prior CRM history, right? And then they have
Mhm.
the key. Maybe there's some AI involved. They have the keys. They can decide what to do, right? But we sort of suggest paths. So once that is proven out, I don't see how any business with salespeople would not want that, But like, who fucking knows? I've been wrong more times than I care to admit. Once that's proven out, I'm going to do a ton of different outreach strategies around that story. But before it's proven out, I'm burning leads, So like I'm sort of chilling. Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about with that product, because I'm an engineer by trade, so when I think of the technology behind it, it's very interesting to me. But I have some questions about that, and you don't have to dive into the IP or anything, but at a high level, I'm just curious. If you have 1,000 website visitors on a specific website, how many profiles or emails can you actually pull out of that 1,000 visitors?
So so the current technology is US only person level identity. So we will get 30% of people's US traffic. Most people have a lot of traffic that is not US. So they're like, oh, fucking our B2B is only 10, 12% resolution. It's like, well, how much of your traffic's overseas? They're like 65%. It's like, okay, well, that's why. We're about to add company level reverse IP lookup, which is global. You can't do the person level in Europe because of GDPR. People guess, they look at the company and they guess who the person was and they sort of say they're doing it, but that's what you can do. So once we add that reverse IP lookup, it will double. So like we'll probably get to around 50% that we can identify. If we resolved partial profiles, meaning we have some information on them, so like a consumer email address and no match to a LinkedIn profile, we could get it up to 60 or 70%. Some vendors do that. I don't think it's that useful, so we don't. But if it, yeah, I mean, there could be such scenarios in which you'd want the information for ad audiences or something like that. So like, maybe we do that someday. But it's the problem that I'm trying to solve right now is like this activation and education issue that I spoke about 2 minutes ago.
And do you guys run into with this product? I'm trying to think exactly how it's built, reverse engineer it, but do you guys have a lot of engineers on the team maintaining it, or what does the product development cycle look like there? Or is it kind of something
Uh,
that's already built and then you just maintain it?
so between the two products, we have like probably 12 engineers. I don't know. We have 40,
Okay.
we have 40 people on our team and it's 25 million ARR. So it's like extremely people typically at 25 million ARR, people have 150. Like that's the normal size. So yeah, I mean, 12 is not nothing, but it's like not 100 either.
Hmm. Okay. So I want to dive back into basically your LinkedIn strategy and what you've been working on with LinkedIn. So I had an interview last week with Brett Martin from a company called Kumo Space. And
Yep.
what that company is, it's a virtual office. And what they found for one of their marketing strategies was it worked really well on TikTok. Because if I say to you the concept of a virtual office, it's kind of hard to imagine what that is. But if you go to their TikTok account and you take a look at it, it's a product that's very visually appealing, and they've had a lot of success pushing that through TikTok. So we talked about this concept called product channel fit. And it's basically understanding your product and then identifying the best channel towards it. So have you found on LinkedIn that has worked well for you because you target SaaS founders specifically? And what considerations would you take in when starting a business or advertising your product to look at when you're trying to determine the best channel to market it?
Um, with RB2B, definitely. So it's more than just product channel. It's like the content marketing of that product. There is a creator channel audience fit, right? Like I am the embodiment of not only is my content unique and very differentiated because of reasons I told you before, I am who almost everyone in B2B wants to be someday. And they live on LinkedIn, right? So like, if you're an early stage founder, you want to be a bootstrapped founder of a 25 million ARR SaaS company that's super profitable, and you answer to no one and you're writing all this crazy shit on LinkedIn, right? If you're a CMO of a 200 million ARR startup, you want to be a founder of a 25 million ARR bootstrap, whatever, someday, right? Like, you're aspiring. So I have this, and I have unlocked my own. If someone else tried to do what I was doing, it wouldn't work, because what makes it valuable is my exact perspective in the words that are being said, right? So
Yeah.
I have this unbelievable content market fit, which just naturally flows right into distributing the freemium product that I'm selling to this audience that's living on this platform. If I, instead of investing in LinkedIn, over the last year and a half, was trying to crack YouTube, it would not have done the same thing. The resonance, the concentration of B2B people, like LinkedIn is like a B2B sales and recruiting platform. So B2B revenue teams live on it because they do their jobs there. I appreciate the argument that they're also taking shits and watching YouTube, but they're not doing their job on YouTube, right? So it's like a different deal. There are a lot of different channels to get customers. I think in the beginning of starting a startup, you should read this book called 4 Steps to the Epiphany.
Love it.
You should figure out who your customers are as you're building the product. Sell it before you have it, if you can. That, figuring out who your customers are, will give you the insight that you need to focus on the channels that you need to go after. But we're kind of back to this cart before the horse thing. It's like, it's so fucking manual that like the channel thing shouldn't even enter the conversation until you're at like 1 million ARR or something like that. Like, channels are not an issue until you have product market fit. You should know that you can reach customers, right? But like, the only thing you should be focused on until your product is good enough to get referrals is like talking to these people and coding. That is it, right? Like, once it's time, you will have a very strong hypothesis for the first channel that you should focus on, which is like wherever you think the maximum amount of leverage you're going to get from the time you're going to put into it is. You should try to get as much as humanly possible out of that channel and then move on to another one. For me, the LinkedIn thing, it was just, I mean, we built the product because the channel was so spectacular for me, literally. Like, so it's kind of backwards a little bit. And, I'm going through right now at 4 million ARR, the work that I should have done, I would have had to have done without this channel at like 500K ARR. But yeah, it is that alignment that you're hinting at is very real. And what works on one channel could or could not work on another. Content that works on one channel could or could not work on another. You certainly need to contextualize for what, I couldn't just like take my LinkedIn stuff, talking heads, and like drop them into TikTok. It just wouldn't. It's not TikTok content, right? Like, so yeah.
Yeah. Adam, as we start winding down here, I just want to give a few quick questions, more mentality and advice that you give to your younger self, and advice that you give to other entrepreneurs who want to have the same success that you've had. So if you could talk to your younger self, Adam from 10 years ago, what's the number one piece of advice you would give to him?
Focus on making a much better product that you can charge more for. That's it.
Product over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, it's both, though. It's not fair. It's like, I just didn't appreciate product as much 10 years ago. So specifically for me, but I would say to kind of anybody else starting out, it's like, figure out how to be a great product person and really try to understand marketing, because marketing is sales. It's just sales to a lot of people. The more you can become a student of those two games, like, that is it, or you become someone who can actually build the stuff. I think it's like, you're either a marketing and product person or you are an engineer if you're
Mhm.
founding. And like, you got to get world class at either those two games or that engineering game. And if you're not one, you find, you have to be one and then find someone who's the other one.
Yeah.
Because like,
Strategically partner.
rarely are engineers great marketers. It can happen. It's just not typically how they're wired. But product people need to be great marketers and vice versa. There's like a lot of marketing in product, and just how you're how you're describing what it does and how you package and price and like all of that shit. Like, there's just so much positioning. Like, I mean, all that stuff is just very, very important to understand.
Mhm. Awesome. Adam, and during your time as an entrepreneur, what were some big wins or lucky breaks that you've had along the way? And do you have any advice on how to reproduce those?
I don't know how to reproduce lucky breaks other than to, luck favors the prepared, man. You just got to work your ass off, and be incredibly focused, and be able to endure when you're not getting lucky breaks. But yeah, lucky breaks. I've had a few, our business is not entirely dependent, but like, there's a large component of the accuracy of our identity that's dependent on third-party cookies.
Mhm.
When we started over 5 years ago, third-party cookies had already been deprecated on Safari, and they were supposed to go away on Chrome in 18 months. But I was so stuck that I was like, whatever, we'll make $1 million or $2 million and that'll be it. And I'll be on something else. Finally, last year, Google Chrome came out and said they're never getting rid of third-party cookies. So like, that is an unbelievably lucky break, right? Like, it just made, I started this business thinking that it was going to be like, 18 months of life, $1 million or $2 million total revenue. And like, it's cranked out 40 over the past 5 years, in revenue.
Yeah, that's a great break to have and something that is impossible to reproduce as it's out of your
Yeah.
control. So, Adam, thank you for so much for coming on the show. If people want to learn more about you online, where can they go?
LinkedIn's the spot for me, man. Adam Robinson, RB2B, or retention.com. Check out rb2b.com if you're interested in identifying people on your website.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much.
Dude, thanks, Marcus. Thanks for having me.